Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory is basically Saw for children. All right, I'm done. That seems to be a lot of All right, hang on. No, I put a lot of work into this.
Oh my God, he has like a dissertation.
He's got a page.
He's
got an essay.
All right. I was going to just talk, but I'm going to read what I wrote. This is the one I really, really love. All right, here we go.
Dr. McKendry's going to be grading this after you're done.
Wonka is a weird eccentric with apprentices and very strange traps. He has one of his apprentices gather 5 children, at least 4 of whom need to be tested. He offers each a chance to face their demons head on, and when they're unable to do so, they fall victim to traps. Wonka's able to wash his hands of it and claim that he didn't do anything. They did it themselves. Just like Jigsaw. But, just like John Kramer, Wonka designed the traps specific to each child. Augustus falls prey to overeating and winds up in a pipe that happens to be this big. The one pipe. The one he falls into is the one that's this big. All the other pipes are like this. Come on. Then there's the whole theory that there's no place for Augustus and his family on the boat, proving that somebody had to be eliminated up to that point. None of the other children were going to fall for this trap. This trap was specifically engineered to test Augustus. Now then, one of my favorites, Violet, is obsessed with gum, talks about gum nonstop, happens to end up in a room with gum. And the entire test is don't chew the gum. So everyone else goes, okay. Not Violet. Our little friend Veruca ends up in a room with golden egg laying gooses. She's the only person that would want one of these. Mike TV doesn't give a crap, right? So she becomes a bad egg and she's rejected and loses her trap. Now, people, you might argue that Charlie is tested at this point because he drinks the fizzy drinks and fails because he does it. And he goes up and almost gets decapitated by fans, much like Jigsaw would do, I might add. But he passes and he gets out of it. But I argue that's not his trap. And we'll come back to this. And the reason that that's not his trap is they don't stop in this room. Jigsaw, really? Wonka and the others just keep going. Charlie's sin here is that he loves his grandfather and his grandfather wants to drink it, so Charlie drinks it with him. That's not Charlie committing a crime. That's Charlie being the only person to give this fraudulent old man who's clearly committing insurance fraud. And yet Charlie loves him anyway.
I love that.
Okay?
Can we just agree that Grandpa Joe is like low-key the secondary antagonist in that movie?
Grandpa Joe might be the enemy, all right? But we'll come back to that. But so then we get to Mike TV, who's obsessed with technology. Charlie doesn't care. This trap isn't meant for him. Charlie's not going to have it happen to him. But Mike TV can't resist. He gives in to his sin, and he ends up where he goes. Right? And there's these carefully choreographed little songs about you falling victim to these traps. That's weird. That didn't just happen. These little apprentices have been working on this.
It's boring good, man. You gotta make songs.
So we get to the end, and Charlie's there, and we get his true test. Because by drinking this, he automatically negated his chances of inheriting the chocolate factory. But did he? No. Because his test is, will you, having lost everything, will you give Slughorn the everlasting Gobstopper? That's the test. And Charlie, even having no possible path to redemption, says no. And he's going to go back to living with his bed of 4 people. Who the hell knows where Charlie sleeps? Right? But he's going to go back to that instead of taking all this money from Slughorn, who turns out to be Wonka's apprentice. And Charlie passes. And Charlie is our final girl. And what does Charlie get? Charlie becomes an apprentice. Wonka is basically Saw for children.
I've been doing this panel for a long time. That is one of the best ones. That is awesome. All right, Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory is basically Saw for children. How many people agree with that? On three, let's hear those cheers. 1, 2, 3. How many people do not agree on 3? Let's hear those boos. 1, 2, 3.
Boo! I think that Saw is Willy Wonka for adults.
And when you grow up, maybe you'll watch it.
In Willy Wonka, when Charlie comes back and tells his family that he gets to go to the chocolate factory, how quickly does Grandpa Joe get out of that bed? Right?
If you assume, Grandpa Joe, let's assume that they are in their 70s and he says, I haven't been out of bed in 20 years. That means they got into those beds when they were in their 50s.
Right.
All 4 of them were just like, well, we hit 50. Let's get in bed. And then we're done.
Grandpa Joe, you freeloading mother.
And then he tells Charlie. How do they change the sheets on that bed?
Yeah. There's just a lot of Jeff.
I don't know, but Charlie's the one dumping out the pot.
In fairness, on the pipes, when you said that Augustus ended up in the biggest pipe, they do state that he is in the outflow pipe. And anybody who has repiped a house, even with PEX, the smallest pipes come into the house, and then the outflow is always your biggest pipe. So, in fairness.
And that's why